At 17, she became a mother to her baby brother when their parents died. She worked 3 jobs, slept on the floor and gave up her dreams so he could have everything. She raised him like her own son for 15 years. Then they inherited millions. And he looked her in the eyes and said, "You're not my real sister. You're just a stranger who has no right to my money." But what he did next will shock you even more. Stay until the end. This story will break your heart and teach you something powerful about family. Hello family, before we start this intriguing story, we would like you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified once we drop new story. Also comment the time you are watching this and country you are watching from. The dusty streets of Benin City buzzed with morning activity as Chi clutched her baby brother closer to her chest. At 17, she had aged beyond her years, her eyes holding secrets too heavy for someone so young. The funeral had ended 3 days ago, and the relatives had all returned to their distant homes, leaving behind only whispered promises and empty condolences. "Nkubi, my precious one," she whispered to the sleeping infant, his tiny fingers wrapped around her thumb. Their parents' graves were still fresh with red earth, and the weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders like a mountain. The neighbors watched from their windows, some with pity, others with doubt. How could a teenage girl raise a baby alone? But she had made a promise to her dying mother. "Take care of your brother," her mother had gasped with her final breath. "Love him as your own." Those words echoed in her mind as she looked down at Nkubi's peaceful face, unaware that his world had changed forever. She would not let him grow up without love, without family, without hope. 5 years had passed, and the small apartment they shared had become a sanctuary of dreams and struggles. She worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices before dawn, selling vegetables in the market during the day, and mending clothes by candlelight at night. Her hands were rough and calloused, her back ached constantly, but her smile never faded when Nkubi ran into her arms each evening. "Sister Chi," Nkubi would shout, his school uniform dirty from playing football with the neighborhood children. She had insisted he attend the best school she could afford, even if it meant eating 1 meal a day sometimes. Education was the key to a better life, she believed. While other young women her age were getting married or pursuing their own dreams, Chimamanda poured everything into raising Kem. The other mothers at school pickup looked at her strangely when she came to collect him. "Is that his sister or his mother?" they would whisper. But she didn't care about their gossip. She saw the pride in Nkubi's eyes when he showed her his good grades, the way he trusted her completely. That was worth more than any judgment from strangers. By age 15, Nkubi had grown tall and handsome, with the confidence that comes from being deeply loved. Chi, now 27, had never married, never traveled, never pursued her own dreams of becoming a teacher. Every decision, every sacrifice, every moment had been for him. She had used her savings to buy him a bicycle, books, and nice clothes. She wanted him to feel special, chosen. "You're going to university," she told him one evening as they shared dinner by the single bulb that lit their modest home. "I've been saving money. You'll study engineering just like you always wanted." Nkubi's eyes lit up with excitement, but something had changed in him over the years. The gratitude that once filled his voice had slowly been replaced by expectation. "Of course I'm going to university," he said, as if it was his right rather than her sacrifice. "All my friends are going too." Chi felt a small pang in her heart but pushed it aside. This was what success looked like: confidence, ambition, dreams reaching beyond their small apartment. She had raised him well, perhaps too well. He no longer saw her struggles because she had worked so hard to hide them from him. As she watched him scroll through his phone, already making plans for his bright future, Chi wondered if love could sometimes become invisible to those who had never lived without it. The knock at the door came on a Tuesday morning when she was preparing Nkubi's breakfast before his final university exams. A well-dressed man in a gray suit stood outside, holding a leather briefcase and looking uncomfortable in the narrow hallway of their old building. Chi wiped her wet hands on her apron, wondering if this was about unpaid bills. "Miss Chi Okoro?" the man asked, checking his papers. "I am Barrister Emeka from Emeka and Associates. I have important news about your late uncle, Chief Obiora Okoro." Chi's heart stopped. Uncle Obiora, her father's wealthy brother who had abandoned the family when their parents died 15 years ago. He had refused to help when she begged him to take in baby Nkubi, claiming he had no obligation to raise another man's children. "He passed away last month," the lawyer continued gently. "And surprisingly he left his entire estate to you and your brother. The will specifically mentions your devotion to family." Chi's legs went weak. "Estate?" Uncle Obiora owned half the commercial properties in Victoria Island, Lagos. This had to be a mistake. The same man who had turned his back on them when they needed him most had remembered them in death. Within 3 months, their lives had transformed completely. Chi and Nkubi moved from their cramped apartment to a beautiful house in the prestigious GRA district of Benin City. The inheritance included not just the Lagos properties, but also significant bank accounts, investments, and a thriving import business. For the first time in her life, Chi could breathe without calculating every naira. "Sister Chi, look at this," Nkubi exclaimed, showing her the acceptance letter from a top engineering university in London. "I can finally study abroad like I always dreamed." His excitement was infectious, and Chi felt a warm joy watching him plan his future without financial constraints. She enrolled in a part-time teaching program at the University of Benin, finally pursuing her own abandoned dreams. But something subtle began to shift. Nkubi started calling her Chi instead of Sister Chi. He spent more time with new wealthy friends who drove expensive cars and spoke about business deals. "You worry too much," he would tell her when she cautioned him about his spending. "We're rich now. Uncle Obiora left us this money to enjoy life, not to count every penny like before." She noticed how easily he said, "us," when discussing the inheritance, as if he had forgotten who had raised him during their poorest years. As Nkubi prepared to leave for London, she met with Barrister Emeka to finalize some property transfers. The elderly lawyer seemed troubled as he reviewed the documents. His office overlooked the busy streets of Lagos, and the afternoon sun cast long shadows across his desk filled with legal papers. "Miss Chi," he said carefully, "I must advise you about something important. The will states that you are the primary beneficiary, with your brother as a secondary inheritor. You have full legal control over the estate." He paused, studying her face. "Chief Obiora was very specific about this arrangement. He believed you had proven yourself as the responsible family member." Chi felt uncomfortable with the lawyer's emphasis. "But Nkubi is my brother. We share everything equally. That's how it should be." Barrister Emeka nodded slowly, but his expression remained concerned. "That is noble of you, but legal documents exist for a reason. Your uncle knew families can change when money is involved. I've seen too many inheritance disputes destroy relationships." As Chi walked back to her car, something she still couldn't believe she owned, she pushed away the lawyer's words. Nkubi would never change. He was her precious little brother, the baby she had raised with her own hands. Money couldn't alter the bond they had built through years of struggle and love. Or could it? A tiny seed of doubt planted itself in her heart, but she refused to let it grow. 2 years had passed since Nkubi left for London, and she had thrown herself into managing the family business and completing her teaching degree. She video-called him every week, sending money for his expenses and listening to his stories about university life. When he announced he was coming home for the holidays, she prepared his favorite meals and decorated the house with welcome banners. But the young man who stepped off the plane at Benin Airport was almost unrecognizable. Nkubi wore expensive designer clothes, spoke with a slight British accent, and barely hugged Chi when she rushed to embrace him. "You look different," she said, trying to hide her disappointment. "London has been good to you." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. During dinner, Nkubi talked constantly about his new friends, sons and daughters of politicians and oil magnates. "They can't believe I grew up poor," he said, cutting his meat with practiced precision. "I told them my parents died when I was young, and I inherited family money." Chi's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "You told them your parents left you money?" she asked quietly. Nkubi shrugged. "It's easier than explaining everything else." The word everything hit Chi like a slap. Everything else meant her sacrifices, her love, her life. The next morning, Nkubi asked Chi to meet him at Barrister Emeka's office. "I need to handle some legal matters," he said mysteriously. Chi arrived to find Nkubi already seated across from the lawyer, papers spread across the desk. The older man looked deeply uncomfortable, avoiding Chi's eyes as she entered. "Chi," Nkubi began, his voice cold and businesslike, "I've been thinking about our arrangement. I believe it's time we formally divided the inheritance. I want my half transferred to my name completely." Chi stared at him, confused. "But brother, you already have access to everything. Why do we need to divide it?" Nkubi's jaw tightened. "Don't call me brother in a business meeting. And I want legal ownership, not just access." Barrister Emeka cleared his throat nervously. "Miss Chi, as I explained before, you are the primary beneficiary. Any division would require your consent." Nkubi's eyes flashed with anger. "That's ridiculous. We're not even blood relatives, she's just my half-sister. Uncle Obiora made a mistake in that will." I deserve an equal share of my family's money. The words hit Chi like physical blows. Just his half-sister? After everything she had given up for him? The baby she had raised, the child she had loved unconditionally, was now calling her a stranger. That evening, she sat alone in the big house that suddenly felt empty despite its size. Nkubi had moved to a hotel, claiming he needed space to think clearly about business decisions. The photos on the mantelpiece showed their journey together. Chi holding baby Nkubi, his first day of school, graduation ceremonies. In every picture, her love was evident, but now those memories felt like lies. Her phone buzzed with a message from Nkubi. I've consulted with lawyers in London. I'm prepared to contest the will in court. You're not my real sister, and you have no right to control my inheritance. Give me what's mine or I'll take it. Chi read the message 3 times, tears blurring her vision. The little boy who used to run into her arms calling her Sister Chi, was now threatening to destroy her in court. The next morning, Chi made a decision that would define the rest of her life. She called Barrister Emeka and instructed him to transfer half of everything to Nkubi's name. Are you certain? The lawyer asked sadly. He may not be satisfied with just half. But Chi knew the truth now. Nkubi was already lost to her. The money had revealed who he truly was, or perhaps who he had always been beneath her unconditional love. As she signed the papers, Chi realized the most painful lesson of her life. Sometimes the people we love most are capable of hurting us deepest. She had raised a son, but he had chosen to become a stranger. The inheritance that should have been a blessing had become a curse, showing her that love given without limits might not always be returned with gratitude. True family, she understood now, is not about blood or law. It's about loyalty, respect, and remembering where you came from. Moral lesson. The story teaches us that genuine love and sacrifice should never be taken for granted. When we pour our hearts into raising and supporting others, we hope they will remember our love and remain grateful. However, people can change when faced with wealth and new opportunities, sometimes forgetting those who helped them reach their success. Chi's story reminds us that while we cannot control how others treat us, we can control how we respond. True strength lies in knowing when to let go even when it breaks our heart. Sometimes the greatest act of love is setting someone free to face the consequences of their choices, while we maintain our dignity and self-worth. Money reveals character. It doesn't create it. Thank you for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos like this.